And hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of When Ops Meets Dev. And yeah, another bumper episode for you this week. Want to welcome you from myself, Johnny, Robbie, Swami. Great to see you guys again. How are you both keeping?
Hey, very good. Very good.
Cool. So we no, absolutely. It's been a bit of a heat wave over in the UK this week, and I think it's getting hotter for us as well. So how's things with you, Swami? All good?
Oh, everything after a full action pack episode last episode. Now it's another action pack episode where we are introducing ways to create infrastructure. So looking forward for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to set the scene, you know, as you say there, Swami, I mean, this week's episode, we've got an hour. We're really going to delve straight into, you know, we've got our microservices kind of coded up. We've played around a little bit with containers. We've looked at different options for putting that container into various aspects of, you know, Azure Container Instance, Docker Desktop and Kubernetes. We know that we need to deploy infrastructure into the cloud. That's kind of part of the puzzle, and I suppose part of the thing that we're building on a cloud platform as Swami disappears from our screens. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. But I mean, in this week's episode, we're really going to be focusing on infrastructure as code. And what we mean by that is looking at the various different ways that we can deploy our infrastructure. We're going to start off looking at things manually. How do we manually click and work through a portal to deploy some of this infrastructure? And we're going to kind of explore the different options around PowerShell using the Azure command line interface, the AZ CLI. And we're going to move on into things like Terraform and maybe talk a little bit about ARM templates. Really, you know, I suppose it's that beginner's introduction to the various different ways. Robbie, Swami, I'm right in thinking that, yeah?
Oh yeah. So I was hoping we could start off just looking at the Azure portal and what manual resource creation looks like. I'm about to share my screen. Before I do that, I just want to describe the thing that we're going to look at a little bit. The cloud provides a portal where you can look at your subscriptions, and within your subscriptions you have resource groups. Your subscriptions gather together things that you're setting up to set up together for an application on the web, and are built together. I believe your resource groups are selections of different resources that form different features or applications that you're providing. And then you have resources under that. The resources are the things that actually will host in the cloud your application or features within your application. So with that, let me bring up the the portal on my webpage here before I share my screen.
Yeah, get your screen shared through. I'll put that up on there for everybody to see now as well.
Okay. I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Bear with 2 seconds. It's coming. It is nearly there.
Okay.
So,
I'm seeing it.
yeah, I'm seeing it my side. I'm just making sure everybody else can see it now. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're good. There we are. So, yeah, fire away, Robbie.
Great. Thank you. All right. So yeah, for example, we already have set up, magically this was set up for me, this resource group, which is for development. And we can attach to this resource group a web page. We might want to set that up. And usually for like a SPA, you would set up a web page with, if it has no background integration, it would just be within a static web page. But it might also have obviously a back end where you're doing transactions and serving dynamic data to the front end, and that would usually be like in an application space. So you can create one. So you can go into App Services, just up in the portal after you've logged in and you've created your even if you haven't created your subscription, by the way, it'll walk you through the creation of those things whenever you go in, so you can jump right in. But if you do a search, you can find different types of resources, or the resources that you already have will show up with the name, matching the search. And then once you're here, you can see the ones you've already created of that type, and you can put in a filter and find the ones you're looking for, or you can create a new service. Okay. And it walks you through the steps necessary to configure it to your resource. So like the first thing you'll want to do is set it up on your resource group. You might not have one of these, but then you can just create a new one and it'll walk you through that process. And then let's just do manual as a resource name. And we're just going to assume that this is a Node 16 server. It doesn't have to be. You could have C# or whatever. Swami would probably prefer C#. I kind of prefer it to be Node or Python or something, but we'll go with that. And the region is another thing that you can set here. You notice that it came already configured to Central US. Then should I change this SKU in size, Swami? You figure it's on premium, so I must probably, especially whenever I'm first starting out, I'm going to want to start it on like a nice free tier. Sounds like a great place to start.
It's always good to start off on free, Robbie, yeah, in case you forget to turn the thing off or delete it afterwards. You don't want to end up paying for that resource, do you?
No, that's right. You can do things in this configuration. You can hook it up directly to GitHub, set up continuous deployment on. If we don't have an account set up already, if you've already set up your account, maybe you can connect it directly to your GitHub account and then attach it to a particular repository and grab, or do it the other way around. But just to create it, you don't have to necessarily make any changes on these places, on these different panes within this configure, this wizard that is walking through here. But there are pieces in here where you might want to, like for example, whenever you're developing, it benefits you to have app insights running, but you may not want to start off with it. Like if it's just your first kicking the tires and making sure that everything is set up, this is a separate resource, or will require a separate AIS resource, so you can skip that at first. And we could add tags here, but I understand, Swami, you want me to come back and add these separately, right?
You're on mute, Swami.
Yes, Robbie. We just want to show the pane, even if you want to do a small change, you need to come back and add a couple tags.
So at the end, it'll every time, no matter what kind of resource you're creating, it'll give you this review phase where you can look at what you've selected along the way. And you might have missed the billing piece, which in this case was up at the very beginning, where you get to pick the type. It would be a good idea to look now and look at your SKU and get a sense of making sure that the way you're using this within your app, your service plan is what you expect it to be. And you create what you write. And this says
paid.
deployment is in progress. But by my way of thinking, I would almost prefer that to say that provisioning is in progress.
Provisioning, yeah. I was going to say, Robbie, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar enough with this deployment or provisioning screen, but I always like to take a look at the template on the left-hand side there for a little bit later on when we probably talk about the ARM deployments. I don't know if you know that that's there, but we've got a copy of our ARM template there that we could actually take a copy of if we wanted to.
That's right. I have exported this file before, but I've never actually used it to recreate the resource in a different resource group. Or, actually, I have once. Now that I'm thinking about it, but it's very rare.
It's just nice to get started. You know, when we talk about the ARM templates in a little while now in this episode, it's nice. It's a nice starting point. If you are, I mean, you know, look, we'll probably have a little bit of a conversation later on. But if you are looking to get started with ARM templates, you've just gone through that wizard manual creation. You've got the ARM template and the parameters file there for everything you've just filled in, and that can be used or manipulated at a later date if need be. But maybe we park that for when we talk about ARM.
We can save it to a library. So
yeah.
It says that save it to the library, so it gets saved, and then anytime you want to do it, that's a shortest way. And this is what I would like to give one tip to all the people who are trying to get themselves up and running in this ARM templates. They don't need to be scared saying that, hey, I don't know ARM templates. You can go to your dev subscription, create the resource group and resource and everything, and export the ARM template and customize it from there. You can do it from
just to complete my section here, I just want to say the last screen it said it was completed. I clicked on, I can go back probably. I clicked on the go-to resource because my deployment is complete. So now my resource has been provisioned and I can go check it out. And here I can see that the resource has been built. And if I go to manual demo right now, I own a manual demo. That's amazing. Yeah, there's not much going on here. There we go. That's what I was looking for. It's going to give you a cover page in case you don't have anything set up.
It's called as hosting start.html.
Yes. So that covers setting it up, but it doesn't add tags. We can go back in and we can add tags. Swami, I know that you asked me to add tags, but I don't know why I'm adding them. So I understand that normally you would add tags to assist in orchestration. So you can say, give me this thing that's got me everything that matches this and bring it down. Or
from the couple of points is from the billing perspective is that you can add the cost center. So we can build the reports, like for this cost center, how much did we cost? That's one thing. And another thing is, imagine we have created a service bus queue and that on a premium. And it will be minting money, like it costs every hour, it costs a lot. And if someone wants to hire management or someone wants to speak to the responsible team, who is that who created this premium? And there should be a contact so-and-so team, our distribution list. That's one thing. Or someone sees a service, the team contact, whom should I contact? Do I need to contact Johnny or do I need to contact Robbie? So for multiple reasons, this tag helps us.
It's just a key value pair, isn't it? That's all it is a key value pair associated with that object in Azure. So, like you say, Swami, there's a multitude of things you could use that for. And yeah, typically I see it being used a lot for, like you say, cost centers, so we know which department needs to be billed for the resources. But yeah, there's it's just a plain old key value pair that you can add as many tags as you like. I think there is an upper limit to how many you can add.
I think 50, if I'm vaguely I remember, but there is a upper limit of the tags also. And one thing we can do is if there is a top priority production site, we can give John's phone number. Okay. So,
yeah.
Anytime the site goes down, please call Johnny's number.
Yeah.
Emergency.
Not when I'm on holiday.
So Swami, before I let this go at this point, did you want anything actually sent here, or can I just? I've set 2 values here. Okay,
Should be
have
good
we
enough.
demonstrated how to set tags?
Yeah, mostly it's like what is very key. These are the reasons someone wants to contact you back, or you are communicating something to the external world, like usage. Is this app used for dev or test or prod? What is the environment? And those kind of things. Usage, contact, cost center.
Okay, we're on a tight timeline here, so I'm gonna hand the wheels over to you, Swami.
Thanks. Johnny, do you mind flashing my screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you. There's tons and tons of things which we have to cover today. So there are almost 11 items we have it in our plate to cover. Is my screen on share?
You are. We can see you.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey guys, this is a slide. I'm still a learner, and apologize if I do any mistake. We have a lot of things to cover, so let's go to the. Please fasten your seatbelt. This section was already covered by Robbie, and like PowerShell and AZ module. So without going to the Azure portal, we ourselves can go and create the resources using this PowerShell. So what is this PowerShell? Why do you need to learn about this? Like, it's a pretty good, very powerful command line utility or script or shell scripting language, and it can do wonders. Okay, and we can, most of the people, they use this PowerShell inside the release pipeline also, in our build and release pipeline. And not only this, using the PowerShell, you can get all the resources, all the processes which is running. It is very powerful. And previously it used to work only on the Windows. Now it is cross-platform. So
yeah, I will call out. You can install it with brew on the Mac. You can install it with brew. Very simple. Just brew install PowerShell.
Exactly. And specifically when you're dealing with Azure, you can install this module.
I think we've lost.
Azure.
Hey, Swami, you're back.
Hello.
You're back,
You are
Swami.
I'm back. Oh, okay. Thanks. So we used to have ASM modules, then RM modules. Now the latest one is Azure PowerShell module. Okay, and I've given this repo where you can find all our previous sessions, documentation, its videos, and there's a session 6 and more to come. We'll speak on that one. So now let's go and start playing around with this AZ PowerShell. So one of the ways where we can go and play around is the Azure, this one, Cloud Shell. So what is Cloud Shell? Cloud Shell has got both PowerShell as well as the Bash. So you can use both. Anyone who's pretty comfortable, the Windows kind of screen, they can use that. Or anyone who's very comfortable with Bash, they can use Bash. Just you can do a simple switch. Okay, without further ado, let's go and start seeing that. How do we know what all this images are there? So I just create few of those variables here. I can create it real quick. I go and create all these things, and we can start playing around. Like, suppose if I want to get for the given location, I just want the publisher. So publisher, we have taken Microsoft Windows Server. So specifically, I'm trying to get all the image names which are very specific to Microsoft Windows Server. Sorry, here it's a Windows Server. Now the next thing what we are doing is, for a given location, if it is Windows, okay, publisher name, we have seen a lot of things. Like if it is a Windows, just give me publish this name. So again, I execute another command. You can very specifically see that publisher name, which has got this Windows over here. Now again, next thing is I can go and get the offer. What is that offer? So you can go and select that. Okay, you're seeing that Windows Server 10, Windows 10, and Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows Server 2012. There are a bunch of things over here. Now again, I can go and get the SKU for that. So I do go get this SKU. So you can see that these are the SKUs. So I've given this command set of commands here under this. You can go and click on this link. Now let's go and create the Windows virtual machine. Okay, well, let's go and create this Windows virtual machine. That script is here. Okay, so this is the resource group. Let's come back to my portal and get into that resource groups and check that the resource group, whatever we are creating, RGDNLH eShop Dev 001. So that resource group doesn't exist. Let's quickly verify that this resource group doesn't exist, and then we'll move forward real quick. So if I search, that doesn't exist. So let's create these variables. And now that I'm using this Azure Cloud Shell, it makes my life very easy. I don't need to do AZ login and AZ connect and whatever the login mechanisms which we need to do it. I don't need to do, because I'm already in my Azure portal. So it recognizes me as an authentic user. So next thing is we create a resource group, and see this how easy it is to add a tag. So while creating the resource group itself, I'm saying that, hey, add couple tags. So it adds it. Now if I come in here, I should be able to see that resource group getting created. It's taking a little bit time, but it is behind the scene. The resource group is already created. There you go. The resource group is already created, and we are seeing the couple of tags. Contact is Swami, and the environment is dev. Okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm using creating this username password. I mean, generally we do. We don't do this. Is only for the practice. We don't use the clear text password. Even if you want to do it through the shell script, we'll use the get credential command, so that it doesn't show what command you're executing. What is your password? It doesn't show. Then we do that new AZVM, and I paste this, and it's taking D2 V3. Now we can come back here and start refreshing. At this point of time, it is going ahead and creating this virtual machine, because
can I just jump in with a quick question?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I know we're supposed to let the audience ask these. I have an honest question. You're using like new AZ resource group, and this looks like a mapping up to the actual AZ commands. Is there how do I know that it needs the no space between AZ resource group and a dash between new and AZ resource group? Is there a resource where I can look at these commands documented in this?
Oh yeah. It's this is the one AZ module where I went here in this AZ module. This is the one which has got tons and tons of information. If you go this AZ PowerShell module, it's pretty AZ. The command which we executed is new AZVM. So just new AZVM. Okay, new AZVM PowerShell. You go to this, and here you will get tons and tons of information, tons and tons. And all you can do is straight lift, copy something. He's giving a detailed parameter list, what all the parameters, and he'll give you a bunch of samples, like how do you do it. Just you can use this one simple command, AZVM get credentials. That's it, boom. Rest of the things it assumes or defaults it, and it takes it.
Very
and
good.
A lot of information is there. Okay,
I'm sorry
so now
to
that
do
it
that
has,
a little bit there.
oh, no problem. I mean, so see this, it has created bunch of things here. Now the problem comes is when I want to delete it. Okay, when I want to delete it, I need to ensure that go and select each and everything to delete it. But when you deploy the resources infrastructure, through the Terraform. You do apply, Terraform apply. It creates the resources. So it knows that what all the resources it created. It maintains the inventory list. Now you want to dismantle that, do a reversal transaction. Terraform destroy. So it goes and destroys each and everything. Now
we're on PowerShell for a minute, aren't we, though, Swami? So we can't run that yet. We haven't talked about Terraform yet, have we?
True. No, I totally agree. I just want to coordinate what kind of problems we will face. Now here what is happening is we have executed this, we have selected bunch of resources and we are saying delete it. Now when you are saying that to delete it, so what happens is all of the resources might get deleted, or because what is happening is a resource A might be dependent on resource B. So in that case, what happens is if it tries to delete resource A, because these are it is executing in parallel to nuke all these resources. So sometimes what happens is some of the resources might get stuck somewhere and it will be problematic to create it. Okay, so I'll just walk you through the documentation because we are running little short of time. So next thing is what we have to pull this one. I unknowingly I just typed it. If not, we would have seen this entire exercise, but we can go and do the Ubuntu virtual machine where we can install Ubuntu virtual machine and install Nginx, and we'll see that, because I, without knowingly, I just wanted to showcase something and I dismantled it. Okay, so now let me come back to the second exercise where we are creating this. Now it's gone. It's gone. I can come back here and I will re-execute this command. In the meanwhile, because I can show this parallelly, I can switch between both Windows as well as Linux virtual machine. Let me switch. I'm creating the Linux virtual machine here. In the other command, I have two Azure cloud shells open. On one, I'm playing with Windows. On the other one, let me start creating the Ubuntu machine so that we'll be able to verify both the things. Okay, now let me paste these variables which are very specific to Ubuntu. So this, I'm creating a new resource group. Okay, so those are the variables which I'm creating. Now what I'm doing is
we gotta wrap this. we gotta pick it up.
Oh, okay. So what I've given step-by-step instructions, guys. I'll just explain at least. So see this. If we go ahead and create, and then we'll install the IaS, we need to do an MSST or remote desktop into that, and open a PowerShell within the newly created virtual machine. Install the IaS web server, and then do a HTTP of the IP which you got it here. You should be able to see the Windows IaS homepage. You can do a curl as well as this.
Actually, so would you step into that? Would you actually, now that you're describing it, you bring up a good point. Would you step into that just so we can see you connecting and actually running that install? We don't even have to see it finish, but just to get into it.
Oh yeah, that is what I was planning. You said wrap up, so I started to wind it up. Let me do that. Let me do that real quick. At least this one. We need to create the SSH key. I created that SSH key. I will take.
You won't have to do that if you've already got one. Obviously, you can reuse a local one for your machine if you have a general public key.
Oh, I already have that. So I just execute multiple commands. What is that? No password. So I'll execute multiple commands real quick so that we can run through this. Okay, and I'm creating the subnet as well as the
PowerShell lets you paste in comments like that.
Yeah,
it did. It didn't even. That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. So it created, and now I'm doing. Let me do all these 3 commands so that at least we'll be able to see that. I think we might need to skip the ARM template piece. Focus more on the Terraform. We'll see that.
I think it's a valid thing, though, to show that what we're going through here is potentially a lot of copy-paste between windows and shell windows, which is great if you're kind of deploying a one-off environment and you just want it set up. You could run this script as a single script to set it all up in one. I'm guessing you're copying and pasting just to show bit by bit, but this is really just deploying infrastructure into a cloud using PowerShell syntax.
That's what I was hoping to highlight. Once it gets to the install, we're going to be at the page we were at before when we were doing it manually, and it said deploy. But we said that looks like provisioning from a traditional perspective.
But this is it. So this is going on. We've yet to kick off the actual installation of the VM yet. We've set up all of the component parts, the NIC, the network security group, the VNet, all the underlying infrastructure is being configured now with those PowerShell commands. And now we're about to, there's the public key, and then essentially we're going to run the new VM PowerShell command,
Right. The public key has been copied. Now, I think the public key has already been copied. Okay, now we need to execute this command where we are saying that take this public key and drop it at the demo user, because that's the username of our virtual machine, demo user. Now we go ahead and create the virtual machine. But as you pointed out, John, we will just drop all these things, parameterize, and put it in the PowerShell function or module kind of thing, PowerShell script, and pass the parameters, and all these things will get created in one shot. Just to get the clarity, we are executing the scripts line by line, but in fact, this will be exposed through a module or a function, and you in a PowerShell script, which will have this bunch of lines, whatever we are copy pasting in one file, and we just pass the parameters to it, and based on the parameters, it goes and creates the resources, like all the things, whatever 6 to 7 parameters which we created, that we expose a function and take this, some of the things which we can default. If we don't send, then it assumes that that's the default command, it needs it, and it goes and creates it. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, that's done. So the next thing is we will get the public IP. We got the public IP, and what we will do is with this public IP, we just do the SSH into that. Okay, so let me do the command real quick, SSH, and that is my username is Swami. Okay, and that's for me, and at the rate, the IP address, what we took it, Jesus. Let me copy the IP address, 40.77.122.64, and now I said yes. Now I'm logging into the box. You can see this when I do a host name. I'm inside that virtual machine which has been created. I can quickly come back to the resource groups, and I remove that, and it shows that 002. When we go into the 002, we see that virtual machine here, VM July 2022 Ubuntu. The same virtual machine, we are seeing it here when we do the host name. Now, all I can do is pretty simple. I can execute these two commands, and I execute. Now, right now, I'm inside the Ubuntu virtual machine. I did an SSH into the Ubuntu virtual machine, which is hosted in my resource group from the Cloud Shell. Technically, I can do it from my local laptop. Only thing is, you need to ensure that you're doing a AZ login and all those stuff properly, and have this SSH and other tools installed on your box.
So Swami, I have a question about this. What you're building right now is a virtual machine, and there's like a billing resource of a virtual machine, which I think is different from the resource for app services, right? How do you get how do you get this configured as an app service?
I'm really sorry. I'll take this question 1 minute.
Okay.
I'll do a curl on. Let me do a curl and open the browser. Then I'll take your question.
Yeah, so I'm just saying you don't have to tell me specifics, but just in a general sense, you can configure more than just an Nginx load balance or whatever it is, router.
Exactly. You can do everything. It's technically the only difference between this and the app service is here in this you have the full control. In this virtual machine, whatever the virtual machine we created, and this virtual machine, if I get into this virtual machine, it created in the central US, and you can see the public IP is the same one, 40.77.122, and you can check that the same virtual machine we went because we installed the Nginx. It is showing here, as well as we did a curl on this one.
So, Robbie, do you remember when we set up that app service and we got given that what was it, manual demo.azurewebsites.net? By default, that app service is publicly facing. The difference with this VM, it's just been spun up on an internally private VNet that Swami has added a public IP to. So you could, in theory, not have that public IP and access it over a private network as well. So it's doing exactly the same thing, only the app service is a platform as a service offering. Under the hood, they're virtual machines running, but we don't get to see them from the portal side. We can go into them, but in this way that Swami's just demonstrated with PowerShell, we've actually spun up a virtual machine that we've then attached a public IP to, and we could go and set our own DNS pointing to that public IP.
All right, very good. Thank you. Let me pick up now, if you don't mind, Swami. I think we've demonstrated that very in a very fairly detailed way. You have all of these instructions that you're working from are on the section for this in our documentation, right?
Yeah, I did give step by step. You guys can go try. You should exactly see whatever the images I pasted because I tried it multiple times before pasting this image. Okay,
right, so for sure we should move on to creating a web app, I think.
The URL is at the bottom there of the screen for everybody watching. You can go and browse that and get these instructions.
Right. One point, Robbie, I would like to call out here is when you the difference between app service and the virtual machine is virtual machine, it gives you full control. Now you can host Apache Tomcat or Nginx or IaC or any kind of server, and it is on your shoulders to ensure that you are not punching holes in the firewall and letting people sneak into that. But when you use an app service, that means the Azure is the cloud provider. Azure is taking care of the infrastructure. They are telling that I'm going to give you an compute power which is equivalent to A1 or B1 or whatever the virtual machine size. That means they are giving you an equivalent power of virtual machine, but that has been abstracted. Now here in virtual machine, you need to take care of updating the operating system and patching all those critical patches, securities, everything you need to take care. But in app service, that everything is taken care of by the cloud provider. Now, Azure takes care of everything. You need to only worry about your application and the data it handles. Back to you, Robbie.
Thank you. Very good. While you're sharing your screen, yeah, perfect. All right. So let's talk about the Azure CLI for a minute. The Azure CLI is available in Bash and in other sundry shells like PowerShell and I think the command line, like the regular. What's the non-PowerShell version on Windows? CMD.
Yeah.
On that thing, I think it's just like generally it's an executable, right? So you should be able to access it, and it is a command line interface to all of the commands, or at least a lot of the commands I think that you just saw presented before, like where you can create a resource group from the command line on the virtual machine. There are equivalents to that in the Azure CLI. More importantly, the Azure CLI allows you to, or its intent, I think is maybe more correct. I don't know if I was incorrect on that. Its intent is to give you the same control that you have from the GUI on the portal, but from the command line. So it can get complicated, and there's a lot of documentation that is available for it, which is useful. You might wonder, how do you use a command line tool and connect to the same things that you have set up on the portal? Well, the first thing you have to do is you actually have to authenticate, and it's going to open up a web portal and do the authentication through the web portal. So that's what AZ login would do after you've installed the Azure command line. And then you can look at which accounts you have currently with the AZ accounts list. I'm actually not remembering what the locations. I know the -O for table makes it in table as opposed to JSON. Almost all the time when you get configuration back from the AZ command, you'll get configuration back in a JSON. The location is, I guess, just going to tell you where each of your different resources are deployed.
Regions.
Regions.
It gives you regions.
All right.
The display name, the name.
I give it to you by ID for the resource or subscription, right?
Locations, regions or locations, like East US or East US 2 or West US, where we create the resources.
So this is not related to, these are not my locations for my subscriptions. These are just locations that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right.
All right. Thank you. That's very good. All right. I wasn't quite prepared for that third part there, but we're going to just fly through that and continue on. We're about, I think, 10 minutes behind schedule still. So,
okay.
Creating a web app in the CLI. Swami, we're going to need your CLI for this. So Swami's already logged in on Azure. You won't have to do that every time that you use the AZ command on the command line. It'll. I'm not exactly sure how the caching mechanism for that works, but I believe that it does keep a cache.
Okay, so right now, Robbie, I have a static site run. So this static site has got the index.html. Right now I'm clicking on it and opening with the live server. Live server is one of the extensions which I like it like anything. It any changes you do it.
Lovely blue. I love it.
Okay, thank you. I'm taking it as a compliment, Robbie. Okay, so any changes which I do it here, like title goes here, I just save it. I don't need to refresh that. The moment I come back, it's going to take care whatever the changes which I added it here. You see that that's getting reflected. I didn't even do anything. So that's one good tool we have to install if you're working with HTML, JavaScript, and Robbie, back to you, Robbie. You can speak while I'll execute this command.
No, that was fine. So yeah, so you're going to need already set up a service plan and a resource group whenever you do your deployments. You can actually do that as well through the AZ command, but I think I'm not sure anyway that it will, whenever you do a release for a resource, that it'll create the resource group and the subscription for you simultaneously or not. You may need to do those first. But assuming that you've already got a service plan, I think that's what we're going to see here. You've got a service plan already set up. You've got a resource group already set up. The create commands for that are really simple, by the way. It's going to be like AZ create, resource group name, and then I don't know, and then SKU. Yeah.
This is what it defines. The SKU is the thing which defines that what is the compute power you're getting it. So the more compute power, you need to shell out more money out of your pocket. So that depends upon what site it is, how much compute you need it. You can always start with low and do a testing, performance testing, and bump it up. So coming back to this, how do you create? There are multiple ways, as Robbie was mentioning. You can create an app service and create an app. So bunch of apps can get into one app service. There is some restriction for free, but apart from that, you can get a chart like what are the restrictions, how many apps can get into one app service. But the thing is very important is the SKU. And once you create an app service, then you can create a web app and hook it up to the app service plan. Okay. And one of the shortest way to create this app service is AZ web app and up. That's the command. So what does this AZ web app up? So what does this do is it goes and creates and also publishes the site. Okay, let's see that command in an action right now. Let me go and let me pick up the command from here before jumping. I think I copied it. So the resource group is RG, some mnemonic names I've given. I'm sorry for that, but to be unique, that's what I will do it to save ourselves this uniqueness problem. Okay, you see that RG, this one, WMD dev 002, that is existing over here, and I don't have any sites inside this. Okay, now let me come back here and execute that script. We are saying that AB web app, created in the East US, the name of that application is this, the resource group is this, the plan, app service plan is this, and publish the HTML content. That means anything which is inside the site gets published. And once you execute this command, there is one important thing you need to understand is it creates a .azure folder with this config file. So because I already tested before, multiple times before showcasing in the live. So what all the things which we said here, we said the plan that it made, what is the app service plan, and what is the resource group it made, and it is good guy that it is using F1 free plan. Okay, it's not taking the P1 plan which costs a lot, but it's taking the F1 free plan. So that's one thing. It takes a minute or two, but we will see that. See this, it is getting the SEM site credentials for the zip deployment, and it takes this content, entire contents of the site, and it zips it out. I want to get little bit deep, not too very deep, but little bit deep inside this, the app service plan. That's cool. So when we come to this, inside this app service plan, so you can see that apps, it shows that within this app service, how many apps are sharing this. So here, if you come to that app service plan, that guy gives you the kind of plan it is. When you want to scale up, you can see that scale out or scale up. So if you see that scale up, that's where it shows that what is the infrastructure. If you see that F1, that is free, I will get the
That's
infrastructure.
your SKU.
Yeah.
That's your SKU that you just selected.
Yeah, we selected. It's 60 minutes. When I go to D1, I'll get 240 minutes. Here, I don't need to pay anything. Here, I need to pay 680, some price. When I go to basic, I need to pay 3,000. When I go to production, I need to pay 5,000. Somewhere it is 10,000. Somewhere it is 20,000. It's not that they are charging, but see the facilities you are getting. That's very, very important. See what all the things which are included. Like you get SSL, auto scale up, staging salt, daily backups, traffic manager. But when you go to dev and test site, you see this, what is that you're getting? I'm getting only memory and storage. When I go to share, I'm getting custom domains. When I'm going here, I'm getting manual scale, but here you're getting auto scale. It's like a plain pizza and you need a pineapple topping or olives or black olives or pepper, tomato, extra cheese, you need to pay. It's as simple as it.
Pineapple shouldn't be on a pizza, Swami.
Oh, I love that pineapple topping. Seriously, black olives and pineapple topping. I love it for some reason.
As a developer, whenever you're creating these stuff, we're looking at this from the perspective of starting the process of DevOps. So you're looking at creating resources, and so you're going to be looking at booting up a process. You're not going to be creating things on these higher tiers. It's always a good idea to take a look at those resources that are available and start low and bring it up as you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct. That is the best suggested way. See this, it also went and deployed it, the site. Okay. And one thing what we can do, a real quick thing is we can get into the console here and check that. You can see all the files which were there on my local machine. You can see this .azure, the favicon, index, everything, it pushed it here. So all the files which were there on my local machine under this folder, you can see that as part of this. So this site, whatever is coming in from D site www. This is a place. Okay. So
is that served? Can you actually hit that the way you wrote it?
Yes, sir. I just hit it. It loads it.
Oh, is that that's the Azure websites. Cool.
Oh yeah. See, one thing what we can do is there is a nice app service editor. Now that you ignited the fire, we need to go into this block also. We might take extra 2 minutes, but I'll make it real quick. Now see this, whatever the content you're seeing it here, title goes here or the main content. Just give me 1 minute. This guy will give me the control. We can do the change multiple ways. I can come into this HTML over here and title goes here. I will say that, hi, Johnny and Robbie. I just did a save.
Yeah.
And I come in here.
What you're going to see, if this shows, it does show. So that means that the app service had to reload because it's already cached that into memory. It already opened that file and read it. It's not watching it like a development server. It's just posting the loaded file. So whenever you hit save, you're actually reloading the service that's running on there as well.
Right. So that's the one we covered. And now we go to that infrastructure as a code. Before going there, I would like to show one thing, which Robbie is very much almost threatened Johnny and me, saying that say infrastructure as a code one more time. Robbie, infrastructure as a code.
All right, so infrastructure as code, what is it really? So infrastructure as code is kind of, it's meant to sound like what it is. It's the infrastructure. It provides a code mechanism for declaring and provisioning and deploying your code. Ultimately, you need to be able to, we've already seen this, and we've seen this a lot, where we're provisioning our resources for deployment, and then we actually go and we deploy the things that are necessary to host our application. And we want to configure also our application. We want to configure our application. We're going to set like variables. We didn't really get into that. We did get into tags, which speaks to like one of the last pieces I'm going to talk about in that, which is orchestration. You want to be able to bring up and down entire groups of resources. You want to be able to manipulate features, deliverables as a whole. And the infrastructure as code provides a language where you can declaratively indicate what you should be provisioning, what resources are going to go into the thing that you're producing, how you're going to deploy it, what the configuration variables need to be set up in that service so that it can function correctly, and how to orchestrate that process. So, pardon me just a second. That's basically what I think infrastructure as code is. Johnny, did you have something you wanted to jump in with?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's a really interesting topic area, and I'm very mindful of time, so I don't want to take up too much. But, this series is called When Ops Meets Dev. Now, from a developer's perspective, this is, clearly a set of provisioning tools that you can use to deploy your infrastructure, that you can deploy your software onto. From an operational perspective, all of a sudden, the thought of deploying what we saw as traditional infrastructure using code is quite new to a lot of operations folk. PowerShell and scripted has been around for many years, and we've all got that under our belts. But now all of a sudden we're trying to think of, right, actually, we're declaring our infrastructure as code, and if we want to change any of that underlying infrastructure, we can change that in code. It's quite a relatively new concept for operation people. So it's really quite an interesting area to kind of now, if we step through the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes that we've got of this episode, talking about the various different types of infrastructure as code that we've got, with it being declarative, and we've kind of seen a little bit of this now as we've walked through using AZ CLI and using PowerShell to a certain extent, is that concept of dependencies. With PowerShell, we had to rely on, you said it yourself, Robbie, have we created that resource group before we then create the resource that sits in there? We have to make sure we get that dependency right. And this is where kind of like the infrastructure as code players, I guess, or the vendors, the different versions such as ARM templates, CloudFormation for AWS, and Terraform kind of play a part in that. All of a sudden now we don't have to worry about some of those dependencies. So it's a really interesting area to understand when might you want to use infrastructure as code and when maybe a script will do with AZ CLI or a PowerShell script. And I guess there's no right or wrong answer here. There are various different ways of doing it, which is, I guess, what we're trying to highlight in this episode. So yeah, back to you, Robbie, on that point.
No, thank you. You wrapped up my section, actually.
Sorry, Robbie.
No, it was wonderful. You said it better than I would.
So one point from my side to add here is we'll see how are we progressing when we are trying to create the Windows virtual machine. We had bunch of things to execute, and we copy pasted each and every command. At the time, Robbie and Johnny and we spoke that these commands we can put it in a PowerShell script and just execute this script. All we need to do is have a functions, expose this as a function and send parameters to this file. And the next progression, what we did is the same thing we did using the AZ CLI command. And that also we create SH file and execute this SH file, pass proper parameters, either expose the exported variables or pass it through command line. That's the second way. And the third way is, you see these many commands we executed. When it comes to ARM templates, we are saying that declaratively we are telling, see, we are not taking any pain. We said that, hey, I need a virtual machine. The virtual machine username should be there. The password should be there. And what all the things which I have to create, the virtual network, what should be the subnet or the CIDR block, how many subnets it should have. Everything we are declaratively we are telling it. Okay. Now what we will do is, these kind of ARM templates or Terrafile or the cloud formation, these we will check into the source control. So today I have created one subnet. Tomorrow what I can do is I can go and add another subnet and execute this through the pipeline. At this point of time today in this session we'll execute it manually, but in the next
that's a good example of something that Terraform provides for you as an example. Terraform provides an ability to, like you said, to basically keep a Git difference of
a state. It keeps its state file. Swami, sorry to chip in. Is it worth just noting now, one of the elephant in the room, I guess, is the thing with ARM templates. For years, lots of people, people get on with ARM templates, but let's face it, they're pretty long-winded. They're pretty long, these template files. When you're provisioning more than one resource, they can run into hundreds of lines of code, which can make it, quite difficult to manage and can introduce error if you're trying to manually change those files. So I know we haven't specifically called it out in our session agenda, but Microsoft have released Bicep, which is effectively on a par with Terraform, so that cut down version, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see Terraform now before we finish this episode, but ARM templates are significantly long. It's worth pointing out now, I think, so that when people are seeing this ARM template, they're not kind of, oh my god, that is a lot. It is a lot of code, and look, there are things that have been put into place, specifically Bicep and Terraform, to try and mitigate those worries, to try and slim down the amount of code that we have to manage. So sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there. I thought it was a good point to throw in.
I love that you're that animated about it, Johnny, and I hate to disappoint you, but I think at this point we've got like 3 minutes left.
I know.
Yeah, so you can see this. There are thousands.
I can attend here as well, so maybe we should save the specific approaches for another episode. What do you think, Swan?
Oh yeah, definitely. At least I would like to show one. Do you have a minute or two?
Let's do an ARM template deployment of it, and then let's leave people hanging to the next episode where we can delve into the Terraform and everything else.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'll close this, and I can come back here. We already have the ARM template, so I'll come back to this one, and just now I executed this. Let me come back to ARM templates, the SQL Server, and the parameters, where I said this is all, let it remain the same. The eShop DB, which I created one, let me create DB2, and that is being pushed into SQL. Okay, that's a server name, and the resource group.
See what you mean about the human error.
Yeah.
The resource group is this one, RG, this one, which I already showed here. So you can see that I just created this, and this database is already there. Let me execute this, and we'll see.
So it's worth pointing out that what you've got there is a template file and a parameters file, and you're just executing an AZ deployment command that's taking that parameter and that template file and deploying that into the Azure platform. Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
Exactly. So this this ARM template deployment, that we can do it in two modes. So we can do it either the incremental mode, ARM templates deployment modes. So this deployment modes, there are a couple of modes. You can do either the complete mode or the incremental mode. So the complete mode is somewhat destructive. That means if you don't have the resources which you declaratively specify, it will dismantle the existing items inside your resource group. That might be a little bit dangerous. If you do an incremental mode, it does a little bit safe. I'm not telling that you're totally safe, but a little bit safe. So people are using this ARM template since ages, isn't it? So,
and that's a valid point you raised, Swami. That is a very valid point, because it's very apt. Again, when we come to the next episode and delve into the Terraform side of things, the point that Swami raised about holding state is, essentially that's quite a vital thing for some people.
Yeah, and one more thing is, if people are scared of this a big ARM template JSON file, it's like JavaScript and TypeScript. You see this, whatever this ARM template which got generated, that was generated through bicep. Even though you write the base bicep, internally it gets converted into the ARM templates, and that gets deployed. So it's like you write it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The bicep was there to help developers and operations folk be able to write these things a little bit more concisely and human readable.
True. Behind the scenes, they are still using the ARM templates. ARM templates are not going anywhere, guys.
That's right.
It's going to stay. It's going to stay. So start. See, we executed that command, and it says it succeeded. So let's come and see that. So it has created another database. So it has,
there we go.
This is a server, and 001 was there. I changed it to 002 here in my in this file, deploy file. It was 001. I changed it to 002. Now you see the advantage. I don't need to sweat a lot. All I need to do is just go and change the parameters, and it gets deployed. Now that we are manually changing it, imagine a scenario where I put this a single JSON template inside the source code repository. The build and release pipeline takes it, changes or replaces the token replacement for these values, and you can deploy thousands of servers with one template. So that's the power of infrastructure as a code.
Have we come to a natural point, do you think, Swami? Now we've deployed an ARM template. Is it worth breaking for now and coming back?
Absolutely. For Terraform, I think, Terraform we will come back in the next episode. So what is there for the next episode? Next episode is heavy on Terraform, and we also create the GitHub actions, the build and release pipeline, and we'll walk through the DevOps or the pull request process. So between Johnny, Robbie, and Swami, we'll first create some resources to the Terraform CLI, and then we'll speak about the DevOps process, the pull request, and other things. Then we'll create the build and release pipeline. The moment we check in the code, that will take the latest Terraform files from the source code GitHub and use the GitHub action and deploy it to our Azure resources. That is the key piece of this entire development phase. Like maybe the cloud native. The cloud native is you need to have the resources ready. Then you don't go and create using manually a PowerShell or Azure CLI or ARM template in PowerShell, ARM template in Azure CLI. No, it should happen through the build and release pipeline. So please join us for the episode 7 for more action. back to you.
Yeah. I think that wraps us up quite nicely. Robbie, any final words before we call it a close for today?
No, sir. No, sir. I got
no. Yeah. We got to go. Look, guys, it's been great again. Really appreciate the time. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in. We'll be back, I think, the first Friday of next month, which I believe is possibly the 5th of August. So we'll call it there. Nice to see you both again, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.
Enjoy your summer, guys.
You too.
Good night.
Bye now.
Bye, folks.